when I was living in Japan, I
Okay.
felt super safe. And I remember being there because of the no gun thing. Like, there
Uh,
just aren't guns. Police don't carry guns
at all.
that I remember. Yeah, I don't think they carry guns. And yeah, like mass shootings aren't a thing like in the US. And so when I lived there, I remember feeling like I never want to live in a place where guns are like legal.
Uh-huh. Hello, welcome. Welcome to this episode. It's been a while since like last episode that I was in English. I have to clarify that my native language is Spanish. So if it's gonna like tricky my English, so please correct me. Thank you, Maggie,
Yeah.
for being here. I'm really excited. When I met you, I honestly wanted to say, hey, can we record together? Because you know Tijuana and you're from United States and I really like your background
Mhm.
and I want to know like your perspective that you had before coming and knowing Mexican culture, Tijuana specifically, because it's a little bit different from the rest. So, what were like the stereotypes
Hmm.
that you confirmed or that you said, okay, this is not what I thought
Hmm.
when
Yeah.
before coming to Tijuana?
Yeah, I mean, my conception of Tijuana was based on, yeah, just what I heard from other people. And I think in the US, Tijuana in particular is a place that gets a bad rap, honestly. People
Mm-hmm.
think it's like dangerous and, you know, that may or may not be true. I mean, yeah, it's a big city. So I think when I heard about Tijuana, it was usually in like a negative context, I
Uh-huh,
feel
of
like.
course.
And then when I came to San Diego,
Mm-hmm.
it was the first time I lived close enough to like be able to cross the border. And
Mm-hmm.
so pretty soon after living here, we decided to like cross and check it out. I think there was a concert or something, and so
Okay.
we came down, and it was funny because I think the experience also of living abroad, and maybe not being so into San Diego. We crossed, yeah, we crossed the border and we were immediately like,
Oh
feels
wow.
nice. It just feels, I mean, honestly, I think it felt, I don't know, there's like a chaos and I don't know, like I guess a freedom in some ways that comes with it being like a big city where it's just kind of like all of these things are happening and it doesn't, to me anyway, it doesn't feel as like square and like cookie cutter as San Diego
Uh-huh.
did to me, and so that in
Oh.
itself feels more interesting. um, but yeah, I mean, I think the biggest stereotype that I can think of was just like the like danger
Do you
factor.
remember the first time that you came?
Hmm.
Like, was it that dangerous? Or you said, oh no, this is like nothing. What I thought.
You know, actually, now that I think about it, I came down with a friend who is from here. So
Okay.
I mean, the funny thing was like, I think we were coming down on a Friday night to play. I was like helping her with these visuals at a concert in Playas. And Friday nights, you know, the line to even just to get to Mexico is
Mm-hmm.
typically longer. So I just remember she was like, "Oh, I can handle this." She like went on the side and just like basically cut the line.
Oh
And I
my
was like,
God.
"Okay, well, I guess yeah, it that was a funny experience." And then but I mean honestly like I guess I didn't really feel in danger or anything. I think being with someone who knew what was going on.
Uh-huh.
I do remember like we were playing with a musician who was playing the cello, and I just remember like we needed to take extra precautions because he was carrying this big instrument
Uh,
and I mean, like any big city where you just have to worry about like your surroundings a little bit more. But yeah, I think uh I mean also since being here I haven't luckily have not felt I haven't had any experience where I felt like in danger. So
I'm really happy that you said
yeah.
that. But of course, I'm not saying Tijuana it's the perfect city. It's not the
Yeah,
perfect
of
city.
course.
As you
Yeah.
say, I mean, it's a big city, so it has a lot of options. I think I have mentioned that before in Spanish or
Mm-hmm.
English.
Mm-hmm.
Tijuana is a big city with many options, like from expensive to really cheap, and so many ways, and different areas as well. I teaching Spanish, I've had a chance to just meet people from around the world
Yeah.
in my city.
Yeah.
That's so cool to me because when I was in France studying French, but I don't speak French, but I just thought like Tijuana has like a great position, location, and Tijuana should be like a really a thing, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But the perception around the world, like, oh my God, Tijuana, do you live in Tijuana? Like, really? It's like
Yeah.
it's not that way.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it's funny. I think even I've gotten that reaction from people in other parts of Mexico too.
Uh-huh.
When I've said, when even if I mention Tijuana, they're like, "Oh." Like there's
Like,
always this like
what are you
there's
doing there?
always this reaction, which is just so funny. But yeah, I think that's one of the I mean, that's yeah, I think that's one of the big draws is just there's so many people from all over and it makes it so unique and special. I mean, it's like isn't it the most populated crossing in
Uh-huh.
the
Yeah, it
world?
is. It is.
Uh, yeah.
And
So,
at the same time, just people don't think it has potential.
yeah. Do you think I mean, I know the other perception I'm just thinking of Revolution and how in the US, like during the Prohibition, that was a whole area where people would go and party and drink because they couldn't do it in the US. And
Mm-hmm.
so I feel like there's also this background or that relationship with Tijuana too that makes it maybe people don't take it as seriously as they should
Yes,
because
it's
of that.
how Tijuana kind of started because we're like so north, so far from the rest of the country
Hmm.
that we don't have like really strong traditions, Mexican traditions.
Hmm.
And we do share, I don't know, habits, traditions from the States as well. And we have people from around the country. So it's really funny to describe Tijuana.
Hmm.
Like it doesn't have something from Tijuana, just like greatest tacos in the world. But
Hmm.
but I don't know, besides that, that isn't something from Tijuana, but I think Tijuana has a lot of things from around the world. You
Yeah.
know? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It has like because people say, okay, you have the best of both worlds
Hmm.
because you're in Mexico and then you have the States.
Hmm.
But I think it's more than that. It's like the best of the rest of the world. I'm not saying it's the best city, but I don't know, like people just come and then just they are the way they are and what they bring. Like for example, you with your art and then what you can like contribute in the
Yeah.
city, share. Doing this right now, I mean,
Yeah.
creating content just to talk like the real thing about what Tijuana is, I think it's something that we need to do, and that's why we do
Mm.
it.
Hmm.
Well, that actually was your kind of your idea, but I wanted to ask you to join, and then it was like,
Yeah.
great that we're doing this.
Yeah.
And have you been in other
Mm.
places in Mexico?
Mm.
And do you think are the same, similar, so different from Tijuana?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been to too many places. I mean, I guess the only place that and I've been to Mexico City, but just for a long weekend. And I think I don't, I guess it's similar in that it's like another huge city.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, nowhere that feels like Tijuana, I guess,
All
that I've
right.
experienced. Yeah, I mean, I think another thing that makes it so unique is that, and yeah, again, I don't know what this is like in other cities necessarily in Mexico, but I think there's still, even though this may be changing, there's still an affordability in terms of,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, just space here. And I think when that's the case, it allows for more experimental things to be able to exist, like artists and music, and I mean, just alternative things to exist that couldn't if in a city where the rent is so high.
Ah, okay.
Does
Mm-hmm.
that make sense? I think it just, I just see a lot of people doing like DIY things here that you don't see in other places because,
For example?
uh, for example, I mean, like this space, NetNet, for
Uh-huh.
example, I think that's something that you have a bunch of people collaborating and
Mm,
paying the rent and allowing this thing to exist
okay.
um, for experimental music and art and things. And uh, I think it's much harder to do that in a place where there are more restraints on uh, yeah, I mean, when the rent is higher, essentially.
Or schedule or
Yeah, or they're more, it's more
square.
rules about what
Aha.
you can do. So I think, yeah, or like spaces like down the street. Our friend who has this, it's like a cafe and gift
Mm-hmm.
store, vintage shop. They do events. It's like it can kind of work more fluidly than I think in other places. At least that's, I don't know, I guess that's what I see, or that's something that is really appealing to me living here,
Mm.
that kind of thing.
What would you think, like, with what you have in your mind, what
Hmm.
would you like to do in a city like Tijuana?
Hmm.
What would you like to create, or I don't know, to
Yeah.
find, to do?
Yeah. I mean, here, I think just being, I mean, for me right now, I'm still in the stage where I'm like trying to understand all of the different things that are going on and to see what's already happening, like what communities would it make sense to be a part of, or and I think this, yeah, like this NetNet community is one where it's like, oh, they're doing really interesting things and they have this opening, so doing an open art studio where I can just collaborate and meet other people. Yeah, I think for me, developing a community of artists or people who are interested in exploring through art is something important to me. And yeah, I guess again, just like I don't know so much what I want to create other than that right now, but just
Uh-huh.
like I think trying to tap into existing networks of people, I guess.
And as a professional, an
Yeah.
artist, what have you done in the past?
Hmm. Um, in the past, I mean, I was working in San Diego for years, so I my art practice is primarily like in a community setting. So
Mm-hmm.
I worked with a nonprofit coordinating
Okay.
a women's center. And then through that role, I was trying to kind of integrate or weave in the arts to everything we did.
Okay.
Um, so we would have programs where we would, yeah, it's sort of developed in response to what women in the community wanted. So women who are new to the US, part of it was like building a community, so getting
Mm-hmm.
people in touch with one another, and then having like social outlets. So people wanted sewing classes, for example. So we had a sewing group. We
Okay.
had like a yoga class every week. We had a garden group. So I guess I used my background in expressive arts therapy, where valuing like all of the arts as beneficial and healing, to kind of coordinate and develop these programs that women wanted to see in their community. So yeah, that's work that I'm really interested in continuing. I think after that experience, I've been sort of taking a break to focus on my own art practice. Um, and so now it's more of me developing my art practice and then finding new ways to bring it into like community here. So the open art studio is kind of finding.
And how do you think art therapy helps humans or the brain? Because before meeting you, that was so like weird to me. Like I never heard. I think I just heard once like arte terapia in Spanish, but I think even now I don't understand completely like how wide could be and how exactly would help.
Yeah.
How does it kind of work? Because as far as I know, it's just like depends on the person or the group. So how does it work?
Yeah, I mean, it also depends. I mean, there's art therapy, expressive arts therapy, creative arts therapy. There's a ton of different names for all of them. But I mean, I resonate the most with expressive arts therapy, which views kind of all of the arts. So music, visual arts, dance, theater, poetry, writing, etc. As tools that you can use to support yourself, to tap into your senses, to get a better sense of what's going on in your body. We talk about that. And, to reconnect with yourself, reconnect with others. And I mean, ultimately is used for some kind of transformation or healing. And I think that it needs to be done in a space that feels supportive and done with someone who can guide you in a way where the art practice or whatever form of art you're doing feels accessible. So it's not, too high skill where you have no idea what you're doing and it's intimidating. It needs to be, we talk about it being low skill, but high sensitivity. So something that can really bring you into your senses. So your sense of touch, smell, taste, your bodily sense. Because we know when we tap into our senses, this can help ground us, like help calm us, essentially.
Right.
So that's a big part of it, is using the arts as a tool to really, reconnect us. At least that's how I view them. And then, with most therapy, people are coming with some kind of issue they might want to work on. So again, like you said, it's kind of tailoring and responding to what makes sense for that person and what practices might support that person through their process.
And what is like anyone could do it, specific people should do it, or how would they should start?
I mean, I think I think everybody should go to therapy. I think it's open. I mean, I think it's beneficial for anyone, honestly. I think, anyone who wants to grow as a person or learn about themselves as a person, or, needs support, feels stuck, which I think we all do at some point or another. So I think just like for people in general, I also think it's great. I mean, I've worked with a lot of people who might communicate in a different way. So, for example, children don't have the same communication skill yet. So I think having this other form or other means of expressing themselves can be really beneficial. And same people who might be on the autism spectrum who have
Uh-huh.
other ways of communicating or expressing themselves. I think this is it can be a really good frame for people, and just alternative way for doing that. Um, yeah.
Interesting, because I mean, we had this conversation in class, so I
Yeah.
had to bring the topic
Yeah.
to the microphone. And I think, again, I mean, I was your teacher, and just to say,
Hmm.
but I think I've learned a lot from you. And then just knowing that you don't need to be an artist or to have
Yeah.
a talent to just express in any way possible for you. Because
Yeah.
just people think like, oh, maybe if I don't have the talent, I should like pay for a course or a
Hmm.
class, or it's a really expensive materials, etc. Right? But it could be like anything, like writing, singing, painting, drawing, like
Hmm.
could be anything. And before I just thought like you should have like a talent
Yeah.
to express yourself
Yeah.
in art, but any type of expression, it's just art.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's what's so, I don't know. Partially, this is a whole other conversation, but sad about how we're educated around art because I think it, yeah, it categorizes artists as these, some, like you were saying, like someone who has a skill, which is true. Like there is that. And I believe it's very cheesy, but I think everybody is an artist and has that potential. And we just, um, I think we are taught in a certain way that kind of suppresses uh, that freedom to feel like we can or have the
Mm.
agency to paint or to pick up a paintbrush, whatever.
If
And
you had to compare, like talking about art cultures, the way you feel about my city and then
hmm,
in the States, you mentioned in the beginning, like the freedom. So would you
mm,
say Mexico, it's like a country where you could be an artist more
mm,
than in the States? Or is it the same? Depends on the
mm.
people. What do you think?
I mean, I I think I mean part of it feels like it goes back to their. I guess the freedom I'm thinking about is um like I think having spaces that feel more experimental or more mm, they I guess they encourage more experimental kind of work. Or I'm thinking about this space that there's a cafe and they just had this huge collection of zines.
Okay.
They're like these handmade art books and handmade
Ah,
art
mm-hmm.
that were, a range of styles and seemed a lot like people are just kind of like trying things out and then putting them for sale or putting them out there in the
Okay.
world. And I see that a lot more here where it seems like there's a, and again, I think this exists in the States in some places, but what I see here is
Mm-hmm.
that there's a lot of support for this like DIY sort of selling things, like trying things out. Maybe claiming the identity of an artist feels less or feels easier here. But
Uh-huh.
again, this is just
Your
my
perception, of course.
very like limited perception from just what I've seen so far. But yeah, what do you have any sense of that?
Not exactly, because I haven't had the chance to live in the States
Yeah, okay.
or just to know or to
Mm-hmm.
be in the field of
Mm-hmm.
arts. But maybe according to the needs that we have,
Mm-hmm.
probably maybe Mexico would
Mm-hmm.
be more likely to develop a sense of art, because I think it's not like first world, and in Mexico it's like growing or developing. So I think we do have a lack of emotional intelligence. I have to mention
mean,
that in every
we-
episode. I'm sorry. And I
States.
think it's just a way to do it.
Hmm.
Like art is just like a way to just release what we have
Hmm.
in society or education. Like just don't let or encourage. Maybe. I don't know.
Hmm.
Like there are different countries and different traditions and different perspectives that I do feel like maybe Mexico would have more not talent, but people tending to try new things.
Hmm.
But at the same time, according to like support, financial support, and I ask
Yeah,
you like,
yeah, right.
how would you do it in the States? At least that's your experience.
Hmm.
Like to find money to support projects. How do you do it, and how people can do it?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's another thing that yeah, for sure influences how artists can exist in a space is if there's cultural, like if there's funding uh, available. Uh, and I've seen, at least in California, seems like there is quite a lot of cultural funding for the arts compared to other places I've been. In the
Okay.
States, I mean, which,
Yes, yes. But it's
um,
beneficial for Tijuana because we're so close and artists coming
yeah, I think
back and forth.
sometimes yeah, for sure. And Tijuana, San Diego region was just named the design capital of the world. It's the first
I
time.
didn't know that. I learned
Yeah.
something today.
So I think there's going to be more money kind of flowing in some capacity. It might be more like design, architecture focused, but um,
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, I definitely think funding for the arts uh, obviously like influences how artists exist. But I think that's the trade-off, right? Like with California, the cost of living there is just so
Crazy.
insanely high that you have to do a lot more hustling to figure out how to make it work there. Um,
Hmm.
I mean, not to say that that doesn't exist here. People have, challenges with affording housing. Obviously, that exists everywhere, but um, yeah, I don't know. It's like a trade-off, like living in a place that feels more affordable, but there's less like funding
Uh-huh.
potentially individually for the arts, or for you as an artist versus somewhere that's like really expensive that has more of that like cultural funding. I don't know. Yeah, I think
So
that's another thing.
if you had the chance to decide, like, hey Maggie, if
Hmm.
you had the opportunity to just
Hmm.
decide to live in Tijuana,
Hmm.
uh, would you take it? Would you say it's a great option? It has this benefits, or no, it's not worth it, or
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a great place. I mean, specifically for artists too. I think it there's a lot of opportunities here um to
to
live and
even
to
have a
exist.
place, right? Like you said, like
Yeah.
net, like collaborating together, paying just a little bit, and just getting like a big
Yeah.
gallery to work or to present you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on what you want to do, what you're trying to do as an artist, I guess. But I do feel like I would recommend it. I mean, as opposed to living in San Diego, but that's also personal.
Uh-huh.
Um, I
Yeah,
think
because it's not for
personal
everybody.
preference. Yeah. Yeah, it really depends. But yeah, I mean, I think I enjoy being down here and being able to walk around
How do
and
you feel with people from Tijuana?
I'm
What is what you saw before and what you
yeah.
know now?
I mean, I didn't really have so much of a perception specifically about the people before. I think being here, I mean, I think I always kind of knew generally people from Mexico tend to be like more I mean, obviously it depends on the person, but
Uh-huh.
friendlier in general than people in the US. I just I think I just had this example the other day. I mean, I really enjoy being able to like say good afternoon or like hello to people like on the streets and get like an actual reaction or like a response back. Where sometimes in San Diego, parts of San Diego, I do that and it's not. It's
It's
just
not.
kind of like looking down or yeah, I don't know. I mean that's a very superficial
No, it's
response,
a,
but
it's
I
a
think
it's a
it's
cultural thing. I mean, it's not that
yeah.
you're talking bad about San Diego or great about Tijuana. I think it's depends on the people that you are in front
Yeah.
of. So,
But that's more commonly my experience here. It's just people are way more open to having a conversation or yeah,
okay,
talking.
okay, we're going to the
Uh,
bad place right now because I'm going to ask what
uh,
I told you I was going to ask.
okay.
We're talking great things about Tijuana and Mexico,
Mm-hmm.
but we have to be
Okay.
realistic. And what is a bad experience that you had in Mexico?
Hmm.
Not bad, but it's like kind of tricky.
Yeah. I mean, I think yeah, obviously like being like very clearly like white woman from the US. Like I think like people, it's yeah. I mean recently I was telling you about this. We rented a car when we went down to La Paz
Mm-hmm.
for a couple of days and we got pulled over by the police. I was driving maybe I was going a little bit over the speed limit, but that is to be determined. But yeah, essentially, we were in the situation where, again, you have this idea about police in Mexico and what that system
Uh-huh.
looks like, and how, I think the assumption is that uh, there's like corruption and all of these
Mm-hmm.
things, and honestly, we were in that situation and we were like, we don't really know what is right, what we should be doing, what we
Okay.
should be accepting, if we should be they wanted us to pay a fine, which, may be understandable, but we didn't get any sort of real ticket or anything. And I think I was telling you they showed us this picture
Mm-hmm.
of like some prices, but it just seemed like incredibly high. And so we were just
Uh-huh.
like, is this real? Like, should we be doing this? And ultimately, we told them that we didn't have enough cash. We had
Uh-huh.
like this amount of cash, and they called someone, and they're like, okay, that's fine. Just like so we paid them and went on our way. But
Okay.
it's situations like that where I mean, that wasn't,
It
as
wasn't like
it
really
wasn't
bad. You
it
didn't
wasn't
get
really bad.
robbed or
No,
something,
of
but
course, but yeah, it was just one of those situations where you don't really know what the right thing if you're being treated a certain way because you're yeah clearly a
and
foreigner or
this
whatever.
interaction was in Spanglish.
It was in Spanish, yeah.
Spanish. Okay.
English, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
So
you
we
had to use your Spanish
mhm.
to
Yes.
to talk with this officer.
Yeah, yeah, that was, I mean, it wasn't horrible. Like, they were very sweet, like, they were very nice, but it was just one of those things where it's like, we don't know, like, if we're like being taken advantage of, or if, just like what the right way to navigate that situation is. And I've heard about similar things happening here where it's like,
Yeah, it
yeah,
happens. I think it's not. It's the first time that I hear. Well,
mm-hmm,
second, but it's the first time I hear from a La Paz because I'm used
mm-hmm,
to hear like, oh, okay, in Tijuana it's common because of course the border,
yeah, yeah.
but I didn't know like, or maybe you were like in a really high speed. I don't
Yeah,
know. I mean,
no.
but here
That's hard
is
to say.
something that happens. I'm not gonna lie, it happens,
Yeah.
but I'm not saying all like officers are like that.
Right, yeah, of course.
But it's something that happens in Tijuana. So if you're driving in Tijuana, so just
Mm-hmm.
be careful. Try not to like
Yeah.
drive your fancy car or just play that. Oh, sorry, I don't understand. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, I don't know. Um, yeah, it's funny because we've never had any problems driving when we're down in Tijuana.
Exactly.
So
So it depends.
yeah, it really depends. And we were, we were in a rented car. It was very like obvious we were not from there. So I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, thankfully, knock on wood, I haven't had any other bad experiences in Tijuana. Um, and yeah, I'm grateful for that.
And how is La Paz? Did you like it? Would you go to a different place next time or?
Yeah, I recommend it. I mean, it was beautiful. It's very low key. Not as touristy as I was expecting, but maybe it's because we were there during an off time.
Mhm.
But yeah, I would love to rent a car again or drive down and like explore more driving.
So you would feel safe like driving around and
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this is just like naivety or like whatever, but we felt safe. Yeah, I think it's there, it's just following the common sense things like,
exactly,
I
exactly.
mean, and this is like everywhere you go. It's like have your phone charged, like maybe don't drive at night, like make sure you have a full tank of gas, like all of these things that you just should should do. I mean, I don't know about the not driving at night thing if that's we were never informed about that either way, but um yeah, and I see that as existing in Tijuana too, right? Like you just follow all the common sense things that you would as when you're in a big city and
Or in the country, like people think it's the same in Tijuana or the rest of Mexico. It's not the same. There's another member of CAD, and he recently he drove with his wife around Mexico with no problem at all. He did it like a year, like 10 years ago, and it was okay. But this time he was kind of nervous to do it because he didn't know what to expect 10 years later.
Yeah.
But he just did it, and he said, honestly, I didn't like bring a lot of cash with me just in case.
Yeah.
But honestly, nothing happened. Like,
Yeah.
great, because you never know. I mean, Tijuana in Mexico is so big that you just don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we hear a lot, like just I think recently there was some things in the news about some things happening with American tourists, and I think it gets, it gets a lot of media attention, and then all of these thoughts, these like stereotypes come back up again. And I know we just drove down to Ensenada, and my mom was texting me like, be safe, like I hope you like text me when you get, I mean, like with everywhere, but I think it specifically comes from this media attention of certain events that happen with
Is it
tourists.
something interesting? What does your parents say when you say, "Oh, I'm going to Mexico"?
Yeah.
But like the first times, were they like really scared?
I think they were. Yeah, I think
Where do they live?
they live in Connecticut, so
Okay.
near New York City, kind of. And I mean, they are experienced travelers, so I mean, they were down in here like many years ago, probably in the 70s or something.
Okay.
And they've traveled a little bit in Mexico, so I think like for themselves, typically they're like fine with going places. It's just when it comes to me, they were a little bit concerned at first, but I think then I know my mom like met someone who was also like they were interested in moving to Tijuana and telling her like all the benefits about Tijuana and playas, and she was like, "Oh, Maggie, like I heard Tijuana's actually a really cool place." And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, this is what I've been trying to tell you, but it comes from someone else." Like,
it happens. It happens. Yeah.
But I mean, now they I don't think they worry as much. I think it's just, yeah, when these things blow up in the news, then I think it triggers something again, and they're like, oh wait, like this seems like it, yeah, whatever could be dangerous. But
Where would you say is the safest place that you've been?
safest place.
That you felt safe? Because it might not be the safest,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, honestly, I think when I was living in Japan, I
Okay.
felt super safe. And I remember being there because of the no gun thing. Like, there
Uh,
just aren't guns. Police don't carry guns
at all.
that I remember. Yeah, I don't think they carry guns. And yeah, like mass shootings aren't a thing like in the US. And so when I lived there, I remember feeling like I never want to live in a place where guns are like legal.
Uh-huh.
And because it feel yeah, I just felt I think for that reason alone I felt way safer. And yeah, and I mean there's a similar thing in big cities where you have to watch,
And
be aware,
for
but
how long did you live in Japan?
2 years.
2 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And how was it?
I loved it. Yeah, I mean, it was great. I lived in a smaller city, so again, this was also felt safer because it was, I could.
Why did you come
Why did I
back?
come back? I was teaching English, and
Okay.
at the time, I didn't feel like there were many other opportunities for me to like branch out from there, and I don't know, I was young and I wanted to see other things.
Uh-huh.
I left. Um, but yeah, it was a great
What is
experience.
something from their culture that you would take for yourself?
I really appreciated I think there's just a lot of awareness and like, at least from my experience, like curation of like food and holidays and everything that are seasonal. I mean, I
Ah,
think that exists to a certain extent, like in the US and maybe here, but I feel like there it just felt like there was way more celebration and like awareness of seasons and like cultivation
uh-huh, uh-huh.
of food. Like in my neighborhood, like most people had some little plot of land where they were growing their own food. So it just felt more connected in that way to um, yeah, eating seasonal
Uh-huh.
food and like seasonal celebrations.
Like makes sense, no? Like makes more sense than just eat
Yeah,
the
yeah,
same
it seems
thing
like
the
that
whole
should
year.
be the case everywhere, but yeah,
But not all countries are like to grow things. That's another
yeah,
thing to
yeah, yeah.
consider.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about food
Mm-hmm.
that you
Favorite
mentioned.
topic?
Do you like Mexican food? Or what are the things that you do like and
Mm-hmm.
don't? Because it's not for
Mm-hmm.
everybody.
Yeah, I like most things. I like we've talked. I've tried to eat more vegetarian, but I think being here, I want to try everything. So I'll
Yeah, here it's
do that. Yeah.
impossible to be.
Um, but I mean, I really like. We've been trying to try out more street food stuff
Uh-huh.
around. So for example, really close to here, there's like a place that serves like rolled tacos that are really good.
Mm.
Yeah. Anything I don't like? I think I'm not the biggest fan of menudo.
Oh, menudo or pancita if
Pancita, yeah.
you try to eat it in
Mm-hmm.
South.
Okay, yeah.
It's called
Pancita, yeah.
pancita.
I'm not a huge fan of that. I think, yeah, again, I don't, I think it's just the, yeah, weirdness with pork sometimes. But, I think that's really the only thing that I would pass on.
Ah,
Hmm.
what have you tried so far?
Uh, oh, I also, yeah, so I've tried a lot of, in Mexico City, we did a lot of the different tacos with like cabeza, and I think you can get like I am not sure what it's called.
Everything from
Yeah.
it. Yeah, from the head.
The head, yeah, different parts of the head. I'm like not a huge fan of that just because I think it's again I think it's more of like a mental thing where I just gross myself out. I think it tastes good probably, but I think the like psychological factor gets to me. So I've tried that. I've tried um all different kinds of tacos, all different kinds of uh chilaquiles.
Por
Uh,
supuesto.
I don't know. I mean, a lot of seafood here.
Oh yeah.
Like going down to Ensenada and like eating seafood, which is always really good. Fish tacos, like Ensenada style fish tacos are my favorite.
Have you eaten tacos in the States? Or no? You didn't try.
Yeah, I have. I mean, we've gotten some good ones kind of in I think we had some in like Barrio Logan that were pretty good.
Oh yeah.
But other than that, it's just kind of and in LA, like I think you can find some good stuff in LA in certain neighborhoods, but yeah, in San Diego, it's just way more expensive, I think.
Exactly.
So even if it's really good, it like
it's not worth it.
Impacts the taste. Where you're just like, I don't know, like $1 a bite or something. You're just like, no.
No, here.
Yeah.
It's kind of better. It's like $1, like, well, at the time of we're recording this, it's like $1.50.
Yeah.
Yes, in Tijuana, we do have the most expensive tacos, like, from Mexico, around Mexico.
Oh.
Yes.
I didn't know
They're the best tacos. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My opinion. My humble opinion.
Yeah, they're really good. I'm also partial to the Vampiro.
Oh, that's not from here.
Oh, wait, is it?
No, it's not from here. I think it's from Sinaloa, but it's not from here.
Oh, okay.
But it's good. What is it? What is it? What is a vampiro?
A vampiro is, it's a fried corn tortilla, right? They kind of like fry it on the grill with all the meat so it gets really oily and delicious. And then they put, this is where I've had it. And then they also, I think they grill the cheese separately and then like put it on top, or maybe they put it, anyway, there's cheese somewhere on there.
Exactamente.
And then whatever meat you want. So yeah, they'll put that on and then cover it with, ooh, now I can't remember if there's like another tortilla. I think. Okay. Yeah. I couldn't remember. Okay, it has a top. But then they'll put like guacamole and, whatever other onions and stuff on top.
I'm not really a fan because it's like crunchy. And I don't like crunchy things.
Yeah,
but
it's a different thing.
It's not like a taco. It's not.
Yeah,
it's una tostada.
Yeah,
to me.
That's true.
To me. Mulita, mulita tostada. Mulita is the same thing.
Okay.
Like 2 tortillas with cheese and then meat and the rest.
See, now I can't remember if is a vampiro a molita. Does it have a top? Or does it? Okay.
No.
I don't think it does have the top
Well,
part.
if someone knows what is the difference,
comment. Open debate. Yeah. What is a vampiro?
Yeah, because then if someone watches this, it's like, no, ignorant. Vampiro, it's not. Yeah. So if you know the difference,
yeah.
Especially quesadilla has cheese or not. For you, does it?
For sure, cheese. I feel like a quesadilla isn't a quesadilla.
Well, the rest of Mexico, like South, they say no quesadilla. It's with cheese or no cheese.
It's not necessarily with cheese.
Oh.
I know. It's a debate difference. North and South, but
interesting.
I just learned how to accept that to them it's with no cheese. To me, it's with cheese.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So yeah, be careful if you go to Mexico City, for example, and then if you like order a quesadilla and they ask you with cheese or no cheese, ask with cheese because you want a quesadilla with cheese, of course.
For sure. And
Yeah.
there they have it's more common, right, to see like the blue corn, like the bigger.
Oh yeah, here it's not that common because here in the north we don't grow
Yeah.
corn,
Mm-hmm.
so it's less common. But I think you could get it somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
What's it called?
It's different.
Black watch.
No. That's different. Because they're different corns. Because people think sometimes that they like color.
Right. Remember we had that long
Yeah,
conversation?
yes.
Yeah.
But no,
It's-
it's like
it's
the corn growing in different like colors. I think it's blue. I don't know. I don't know exactly. But
Mhm.
if you see a tortilla that is blue, it's because corn is blue.
Mhm.
Natural.
Naturally, yeah. And then what's you said with la coche?
With,
Oh,
with
huitlacoche.
We talked about it
Yeah,
as well.
the corn smut or corn mold or whatever.
Yes, it's like something.
Which is kind of like a huarache.
It,
Mm.
no, well, huh? No, I think with la coche is what grows with the corn. It's like fungus
Mhm. Mhm.
of the corn,
Mhm.
and we eat it.
Mhm.
Yeah, it sounds gross, but people say it's delicious. I haven't eaten yet.
Yeah, I like it.
But it's like we do eat mushrooms, so it's kind of similar.
Yeah. Yeah, I think with that it's a texture thing. Like if you don't like the texture, then it can
People
be
don't
hard.
like mushrooms. Many people don't like.
Mhm.
Comes from texture, you would say,
Maybe.
flavor,
Maybe.
too intense.
Yeah. I've had them a lot with like in vegetarian tacos. They're really good. But you can get them in the can.
So, yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's that about food. So yeah,
Mhm.
really careful with quesadilla with no cheese.
Mhm.
It's right to ask what it comes with the thing.
Mhm.
Definitely. Definitely. So I wanted to ask you, continue with the Mexican culture
Uh-huh.
and everything. We were together in Spanish lessons,
Mhm.
conversation more exactly.
Mhm.
How it's been your process
Mhm.
of learning Spanish? Was it really difficult for you, or you think it's just part of the process? How do you take
Yeah.
learning?
Well, I feel like I've had a long relationship with learning Spanish because it was the language that I studied when I was in high school, and then I studied it in university. Yeah. And then I went for maybe 10 years or so without speaking it.
Okay, without using it at all.
Yeah, not
Okay.
using it at all. And learned a little bit of Japanese and German, and so my like language brain was full of other languages and mostly German. And so trying to learn it again now, also as an adult in their 30s, I think it's just harder to learn things as you get older. Hard to like retain knowledge.
So would you say that learning languages, it's a talent or it's just something that anyone could do?
I think certain people may have more of an ear for it or may like naturally have it may like come more natural to certain people. Like I don't know, like my partner is a musician and I feel like because he has an ear for sounds, he can pick up
Huh.
easier on languages somehow. I don't know if that's true, but that's what it seems like to me. But I mean, I think being able to live in a place where you can speak it all the time, like that's how I learned like Japanese and German, just being in those places and being forced to speak it. I think that's probably like, at least for me in my process, that's been like the most influential part. And I mean, so here, yeah, I think in the US, a lot of people speak Spanish.
Uh-huh.
But I think both in San Diego and Tijuana, it's like a lot of people also speak English, so it's easier. Like people will switch back and forth if they feel like you can't speak Spanish sometimes. So it's, yeah, I feel like it's a little bit different. But no, I mean, I think having that base, that foundation of Spanish has helped me pick it up a little bit faster,
Ah.
obviously. Like I think I have a lot of the vocabulary that has come back from studying, and now it's more, again, just getting comfortable with like speaking the words and not getting too caught up in my head when I'm thinking and trying to speak. Um,
Would
yeah.
you say would you say that you can't learn if you're not living or surrounded by the language?
I don't think so. I mean, I think obviously it's like more helpful to be immersed in it because you're exposed to things that you wouldn't be otherwise. Like you have to make it work day to day. Um, but I still, yeah, I feel like there's a huge benefit in general to just learning a language. And now with the internet and Zoom and like all of the things, I feel like there are ways to find communities probably where you could practice daily, with people who are speaking that language. And I'm sure there are all kinds of other things, yeah, other resources that you can use.
And for you, what are the benefits of speaking Spanish?
I mean, I think just in general, like living in this region, obviously, where
Uh-huh.
people like, yeah, where Spanish is a major language. And yeah, it feels important to learn it. Um, yeah, being in this area, I think future wise, it feels more um, like a more common language or more easy to use than German.
Of course.
I just thinking about the other languages I've learned. Like it feels just, yeah, like in thinking about, you know, no matter where I live, if it's in the States, there are large communities of people who speak Spanish.
Hmm.
And so I feel like I honestly feel like growing up in the US, everybody should learn Spanish and English.
Okay, okay.
Controversial, but I feel like everybody should learn, yeah, should be able to speak Spanish.
Why?
Because there's so many people who speak it. It's like I mean I think and I think about Europe, for example. Like most people from Europe
True.
know multiple languages, and it's such an asset in, in life and understanding culture and like being more open to other people, other cultures. And I think that would be a huge benefit to the US.
Yeah, because it's not just the language, it's when you learn the language, it
Yeah.
comes along with the culture.
Yeah.
So knowing, I don't know, knowing or learning a new language, it doesn't need to be Spanish, but
Mm-hmm.
I just know like opens up like a different way of thinking to accept other way of thinking, living, like tolerance as well. I don't know. To
Yeah.
me, it's great to be at least bilingual. If you
Yeah.
don't want to learn another, it's fine, but it gives you like that perspective of respecting others,
For sure.
even if they are different,
Mm-hmm.
because we're not going to be exactly the same. And it's really hard to accept something that is different from you. And then when you don't have it, I think as an adult, if you
Mm-hmm.
want to travel, you should have this mindset
Yeah,
of just getting to know different cultures, different people.
for sure.
And as I ask you, like, what is something from, I don't know, Japanese culture that you would take, like, for yourself?
Mm-hmm.
When you have that mindset, like, open minded to see, oh, maybe I will learn from a Japanese person or a Mexican person.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, makes you like a better version of yourself to
Yeah.
speak, to see. like opens up a different new world.
For sure. Yeah, and I think being like having any other like having a relationship with another place or like going to another place, I just think in general it's like very respectful to try to learn, to make the attempt to learn and to be able to communicate. And it changes your experience so much. I mean, like everything you just said, but yeah, you get to know the culture in a different way. And yeah, I don't know. I think just generally it's like way more respectful to try to do that then.
It's funny that you mentioned that because you're not the first one.
Mm.
Because I said, I always ask, like in the first class, or like, why would you like to learn Spanish now? And they say, like, for traveling or work, or. But this guy said, well, I want to live in Mexico and I really want to respect your culture. And I think to me, that's a way to respect to you guys.
Yeah.
Like to just try as much as I can to speak your language, and that way I think I will like respect your culture if I want to live in it.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, wow, what a great way to like honor Mexico.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you're living here, but at the same time you are respecting how we are, what we think.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot to me as a Mexican, to receive people from other places and to receive that respect. It's just awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think I also, I mean, working with people in the US who um who were new to the US and had to learn English, and just having so much respect for like I mean, just how hard it is to learn another language, and how I don't know, I think as like native English speakers, you there's so much more leniency in going to places because most other people speak English, and you can just like get away get away with not learning, and that's just like not true for other people. And I feel like just that in itself is why we should be like learning other languages to I don't know, counter that, I guess. But yeah.
Why do you think it's difficult to learn a new language?
I think again, I think
Depends on the language, of course.
Depends on the language. It depends on your like stage of life, I think. Again, like I think it's harder to learn languages as you're older, and depends on like what else in your life is going on, if you have like the mental capacity for it, because it's like a lot of work and dedication, I think, to committing to it. Yeah, I think that's mainly the thing. I mean, I feel like Spanish feels for me a little bit easier because of this foundation, and because like logically there are a lot of words that are similar, and it doesn't, some pronunciation obviously is difficult and different, but it doesn't feel as like foreign to me as other languages, because I've had so much exposure to it. But yeah, I think like we've talked about too, if you don't like resonate with the culture too, I feel like that can make it more challenging to learn, or like to embody the language as well. Like it just, if there's that disconnect, I guess I feel like that could impact.
Exactly. Thank God you said it.
Yeah.
Because I said, like, when you learn the language, you have to know the culture, and sometimes when you don't like connect with the culture, it's gonna be, I'm not saying impossible, but it's gonna be really, really hard.
Yeah.
Because it's like you develop like a certain, not develop, but you connect, a part of your personality connects with this culture, and then if you don't, how it's a way to, we said, like, to express yourself in a different way. And then if you don't connect with that, it's going to be really hard.
Yeah.
Really, really hard. There's another member that uses Spanish to like express emotions that can't in English.
Yeah.
And that's so interesting to me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I feel great that Spanish is just another tool, like art,
Mm-hmm.
to just express what sometimes you can't in your own language.
Yeah.
Sometimes you use that, like, because I asked you like why people would use art as a
Mm-hmm.
therapy,
Mm-hmm.
and then you said like sometimes there are emotions or words that you can't express, that it's so easy just to let it flow in
Mm-hmm.
art, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe there are words that don't exist in your native language that you can
Yeah.
easily find in Spanish, and then you say like bad
Mm-hmm.
words or other words describing this that doesn't exist in English.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really, I think that's really interesting. And yeah, I feel like, yeah, for that reason, it makes a lot of sense that we would, yeah, have certain languages for certain emotions or certain things that we need to talk
Yes,
about.
exactly. Because
Yeah.
depends on the culture. Maybe you pick
Yeah.
the right emotion and then you use it. I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
maybe.
Mm-hmm.
What
Yeah.
what do you think in your experience? What does it take to learn Spanish?
Hmm. Um, I don't know. I mean, I think like a interest.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like an interest. Um, yeah, I mean, I maybe yeah, and I think an interest like in a, I mean, exactly like we were talking about, just like a willingness to be interested or like understands the
Mm-hmm,
culture
mm-hmm.
and yeah, I don't know what else. Good question.
Well, if someone is like super basic and then
Hmm.
ask you, "Hey Maggie, I really don't know how to start.
Yeah.
Would you recommend to start? What do you recommend to
I see, I see.
do?
Hmm.
Like, what do you think, like, now, like, the work? What does it take to
Yeah.
learn Spanish?"
Um, I mean, yeah, I feel like the basic, I feel like starting from the basics and I have like watched a lot of YouTube videos, just refreshing myself on
Nice.
everything. I also, I think I was telling you about um, yeah, I think just like different podcasts that help uh, sort of make parallel or just explain Spanish for English language,
Mm-hmm.
native English language speakers, and make draw those parallels between the languages so that it's more of like an intuitive learning
Okay.
process. I think for me that's been helpful just to sort of be able to view those and then decipher for myself different words. And then finding someone to have
Mm-hmm.
conversations with
Mm-hmm.
who are like patient enough to can correct you and like practice. And then if there are opportunities where there are places that you can like, yeah, practice it in real life and like have be immersed in it, even if it's just like for little periods at a time. I mean, doing that. Um, yeah, I think real life
Okay.
experience too.
What would you think that would be the benefits of having a teacher that it's native from that language? Or for you,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter.
Um, I mean, I think for me that's something I was looking for. Also, I think taking classes here in Tijuana, I think it felt more, yeah, I mean, it felt more interesting to me to like take classes with somebody who knows the area
Okay.
and um I feel like I don't know, not to like discriminate against other people who teach languages who are not from those places, but I feel like maybe there's yeah, just more of a or there can be a um deeper understanding of the language on like a personal level, maybe.
Okay.
But I don't know. I haven't. Yeah, I'm not really.
I ask you because sometimes people think like, oh, it's a native person, and it is better if I start listening from a native.
Hmm.
But sometimes you hire or you get a person that it's native, but this person doesn't know how to teach.
Yeah,
So
that's true. Yeah,
you have to be really careful to look for great pronunciation
for sure.
or
Yeah.
the right way to learn rules. Or I'm not saying it's bad, but I think it's good
Hmm.
to have exposure and conversation if you really have like intermediate level,
Yeah.
just to find any type of practice.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it obviously depends on the person's experience, and if
Mhm.
I mean, you could have someone who is a native speaker who speaks who doesn't have the teaching experience and who may be harder to learn from. But yeah, I think for me learning, and I don't know if it matters if they're native, if I think just like having the correct accent or like having the correct
Wait.
way of
Uh-huh.
speaking, and yeah, um that just feels like a important thing to base
Yeah,
that on.
right. Because before I was like, when people say, oh, it's Mexican language, no? In the beginning, I was like, why do they say Mexican language? Because it's like, to me, it's a
Yeah.
Spanish, but there are so many different accents
Mm-hmm.
of Spanish that when they say Mexican language, I don't get that offended because we do have a certain accent and we do have Spanish structure, but sometimes we use different words from Spain or words from
Yeah.
Colombia or words from Argentina.
Right.
So I think it's good that you use specifically like
Yeah, I think it
Mexican.
depends on your intention too. Like if you're, learning Spanish to go travel in Spain or something, then maybe you want to like, yeah, make sure you know that. But yeah, I think it's important. I mean, for me, it's been important to like learn the like colloquialisms and like the slang and like
Yeah.
all of that comes from like someone who is like from the place.
Exactly. And to find, at least here at Tijuana, that we have our monthly events to just
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
like talk with locals. Because sometimes, like, my lessons are too neutral or formal. And sometimes I don't know how to present like some words or phrases because I don't use them.
Mm.
So for me, it's great to just let them explore
Yeah. Yeah.
from locals, like street words or
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's been a great episode. So my last question
Yeah.
is, if someone is struggling with Spanish,
Mm-hmm.
what would you say or recommend to have in
Hmm.
mind or to do?
I would just say that keep going because it just takes, it just takes a while. I feel like it's like any process, like you kind of go through those periods of like you feel like you've like really got it and then you get in the situation where like you just don't understand anything
Anything.
and you're like, gosh, I thought yeah. So I think it's just powering through and knowing that at least for me, it's like knowing that all of those experiences are still like you're still getting something out of them. And I think being compassionate with yourself in that way and maybe finding different ways
Mhm.
um of practicing or learning, knowing that like your comprehension and your like verbal ability and writing ability, reading ability, like they all develop at different times.
Mhm. Exactly.
Um, yeah.
Exactly.
Um, and so, yeah, I don't know. I think for me, sometimes I'll like move from one to another when I feel like frustrated with one. I'll like work on
Okay.
another one. And so that, you don't get overwhelmed by just like focusing on, I don't know, speaking all the time, knowing that they're all also like working in combination, I guess. At least that's the way I view it.
Nice. No, I like it because in the beginning, I said, like, all of this, like, remember, it's going to be like a long process. It's going to get really hard, or you're not going to find the time to really study. And don't say, sorry, I didn't study. Like, it's part of your life to have other things going on. So it's just like, be okay with
Yeah.
it. It's a really long journey. So the point is to enjoy that you're able to say new things like the upcoming
Yeah.
week and then next month and then
For sure. Well, and I think that also when you put the pressure on it like that, it doesn't become fun anymore. And I think like the more fun it is, the more you learn and the more, yeah, you can, yeah, keep going.
keep going. Yeah. Okay, then just what is something from our culture that you enjoy and that you would take anywhere you would go?
Mm,
Dun, dun, dun.
I don't know. The first thing, like literally the first thing that came to mind was tortillas, but
Okay, nice.
corn.
Corn. Okay, get corn, get corn.
Tortillas. No, I don't. Yeah, I feel like yeah. I don't know how to articulate this, but I think just like the general like um maybe like openness and like receptiveness I've felt from people here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There is no wrong or right answer.
I think taking that with me.
Nice, nice. I think it was a great episode.
Thanks
Thank you for
having me.
sharing what you think, because
Mhm.
it's really difficult sometimes to like open up your heart to a different culture and then to share honestly what you think in front of like Mexicans, I get it, and to kind of avoid talking bad about your own culture.
Yeah.
But that's why we have these spaces. We're not saying I do say like we have the best tax in the world, but I'm not saying like we do have the best of everything and that we have the best country, you know, like it's just different. We have different cultures, and that's I think what Tijuana has. Like we tolerate, we accept, we just welcome people from other places.
Yeah.
And that's it. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your time. I love this episode.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And if you are interested in like contact Maggie for something, would you like to like share
Yeah.
your social media or
Yes, I'll share all of the information.
Okay, it's gonna be like right there. Thank you and see you or listen next time. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.